Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome again to another episode of the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. I am your host, Demetrius, and listen, you know I always say it on every single solitary podcast. I love being a father, and my goal is to help you to love being a father the way that I love being a father. Yes, I do love my job, right? I always talk about that t-shirt that somebody bought me one time for Father's Day that says fatherhood, the toughest job you will ever love, right? Love the job, love doing it. Been doing it for a little while now, and been doing it so well that finally, we're grandparents, and we just had the opportunity to celebrate that 1 year birthday of our grandson. Listen, it is the best gift ever. So just hang in there, Dad. Eventually, you'll have an opportunity to rock your grandson or granddaughter too. It's a whole lot of fun. Well, guys, listen, we are so happy to always be able to come to this space with you, spend this time with you, share with you, have these conversations with you that we think are going to be so helpful and beneficial in your journey of fatherhood. As we always say, we are just good men who are doing our best and working every single day to make our best better. I just want to be better today than I was yesterday. And if I can accomplish that, guess what? I can give myself a check mark and know that I am doing good and I am on my way to seeing what my best will look like the next time and the next time and the next time, right? So we just want to continue to get better. And today is no different. We are going to have a great conversation today. I am so excited for my guests that I have with me in the studio. But first, remember, y'all, you cannot forget every time we always have to go through this and we always have to remind everybody, please do me a favor, like and share, subscribe to the podcast. I mean, come on, right there. And then hit that notification bell. Share this podcast, share this with some friends, share this with some families, members. Tell them, hey, you need to watch this. You need to see this. I think this is going to be beneficial and it's going to be helpful for you. So I appreciate y'all. Would you just help me continue to just increase and grow our channel and grow all the things that we have going on here on the podcast? And also remember, you can go over to our website because we got some really, really great things over there. Okay. One of my favorite things that I'm always going to make sure that you guys are aware of is that you can get your hands on this wonderful little hoodie. Now, a lot of my product is over there. Our product is over there in the site. It is dedicated to the memory of my dear dad. And one of the things my dad used to say all the time is, boy or girl or whoever, don't let the devil fool you, right? So I think it's really, really great. And we have this on cups and we have this in hoodies and tees and caps and all that kind of stuff like that. It's just a really good message, all right? Don't let the devil fool you, no matter what. Don't let him fool you. And then, dads, as we kind of develop, you can get over there and get yourself what I call the target practice journal. That's going to make a whole lot more sense to you once you get your hands on it. I am excited to report to you, and I want you guys to just keep on being reminded and get ready, because right around Father's Day, you're going to see this thing come out like arrows in my hand. This is a book that I've been working on for some time, right? And so I want you guys to be able to get this book. I want you to get it. And then I want you to get that target practice journal so you can actually take the time and journal and record your journey as you are in your own development while you are helping your arrows prepare to hit the target. All right, guys. So listen, go over there. It's a whole lot of other stuff over there for you to take a look, a lot of stuff for you to grab and get your hands on. And so I'm so excited about you being able to do that. Okay. All right. You're going to do that for me. I appreciate you so much. All right. I'm going to give you a big thumbs up right now. And I'm going to tell you thank you. They're going to tell you thank you when you check out and all that good stuff like that. But yeah. Thank you. All right. So we got some really good things that are happening. And I am so excited, by the way, y'all. I am so excited. And I'm ready now. If you're ready, I'm ready to welcome our guest to the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. So, I think, he may be ready to share with us, and we're going to bring him in. Everybody, please do me a favor and welcome to the Facts and Fatherhood podcast, Mr. DJ Laurie. How are you, man?
What's up, Demetrius? I'm doing fantastic, man. Beautiful introduction. That was you're firing me up when you were telling me about all the stuff you got, on the horizon, dude. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I'm excited to dive into the facts and the fatherhood, even though I'm not a father, right?
Yeah, man.
I'm a son though. So I have that perspective.
Yeah, well, you know what? We welcome that perspective because you know what? All of us who are fathers at some point, we had to be sons. And you know what's funny is sometimes us, when we get into our role of being fathers, sometimes we forget that we used to be sons, right? And so a lot of times that can kind of create some of these disconnects. But before we get into that, listen, man, let's just hear from you. I want you to tell our audience a little bit about you. Tell us, just what's up. Tell us more about you, DJ.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Rochester, New York, the Northeast, and I grew up there about 27 years there. And about 2 to 3 years ago, I decided to move to Tampa, Florida. I realized there was a whole other world out there, and I wanted to go explore it a little bit. I had some friends who had moved here, and it's one of the best decisions that I ever made. And the reason that I got into a lot of the work that I do today is because when I graduated college in Rochester, New York, I was struggling to kind of figure out my life, as a lot of young men are today, kind of that age range of 18 to 26, and figuring out, what is their path and how can we take some scary, uncomfortable steps in those paths and be confident and believe in ourselves along the way. And I know that all of that takes challenge. And so I was one of those young men who was kind of struggling to find that path. And I had a mentor of mine who was an old basketball coach, man by the name of Scott Gibbs. I ran into him at the gym probably about maybe a month or two after I'd graduated college. And we got into a really nice conversation that essentially changed my life. He started essentially mentoring me and coaching me about 2 to 3 times a week for the next 3 years. And at the end of those 3 years, we decided to build a business together. And that business, the parent company, is called Acres of Diamonds. And essentially really what we do is it was really centered around mental fitness and self-leadership. And we started partnering with a lot of companies in Rochester, New York, and running them through an 8-week mental fitness program. And so I was 25 years old. I was a full-time graphic designer that I then took part-time graphic design work. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was running these mental fitness groups for these top place to work companies. And it was really cool. And as I did that, we had more parents start to say, hey, all the work that you're doing with us, could you do this with my son? He's 18, 19, 20. He's lacking a little bit of confidence, a little bit of some mental fitness between the ears and some direction. And I think this stuff he would really enjoy this. And so I started working with some of these young men on a one-on-one basis. And it was more like coaching. And I always was very adamant about, hey, I'm not a therapist or a counselor. I believe though in tracking healthy habits, waking up on time, eating healthy, exercising, reading, and doing the little things right. And I said, and I can talk to your son about how to do those things right, because I think I'm pretty good at them. And so I started working with these young men on a one-on-one basis. And then over the next about 3 years, I had kind of built this community. And I said, hey, let's turn this into like a full-blown program where we are actually helping guys track habits. We're doing it together in small groups for the community and the friendship building that a lot of guys are missing today because of the way that social media and isolation is so readily available. And convenience. And so we started building this program about a year or two ago, and it's been really cool. It's called Be That Guy now. And that name was actually created from a couple of the guys in the group. And what we do now is we work with young men who feel just a little lost. And I'm always very open about, everybody feels lost at some point in their lives. It isn't a sign of weakness. It isn't a sign of lack of intelligence. I think if you are courageous and honest enough to say, hey, like I could use a little bit of guidance right now, I think it could change your life. And so I talk to these guys about doing the little things right. So we track habits. We meet each week. We have a full calendar. I actually have my calendar right here that we basically write them all down, and then we come back together and we say, hey, did you do what you said you were going to do? And this all follows the principle, or the big belief that we have, that self-belief and confidence is built from this thing called controlled friction. And it's essentially building a little bit of pain, very light pain, nothing wild, into your daily routines that causes you to essentially prove to yourself that you can do something hard. And I think that is what we're lacking a lot of today with young men, unfortunately, is their belief in themselves that they can do hard things. And I think it's just because of the way that the world is kind of evolved with technology, with convenience, with a lot of the male influences that guys see online. I think we've lost a little bit of self-belief as young men, and that confidence. And so I believe that we solve it by controlled friction. And that's what we do with our Be That Guy program.
Wow. So y'all heard it, right? Y'all heard him say it. I didn't say it. He said that he is the one who can teach you how to be that guy.
Exactly. Yes.
I love it, right? So this program though is so great because it's centered around some of the things which you just kind of mentioned a little bit of some of the things, and just maybe kind of talk to us a little bit about that as to like what you really see in your work, that what's happening with the young men in the world today, like what is going on with them, like mentally, and different things. It's funny, and I'll let you answer. I was just thinking while you were talking that there was a comedian, and it was very comedic what he was saying, but the point that he was making was really, really driving home. He was talking about, like, he was talking to his son. And he says, okay, come on, let's go out. I said, I'm tired of you being on the video game. Let's go out and let's race. He says, and he gets on the line, and him and his son get on the line, and he says, on your mark, get ready, get set, go. He says, he takes off running, and his son is back here doing this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, sometimes, we don't realize, how there are things that are influencing the behavior that we see. And sometimes we're just kind of hard on the behavior. We'll get to that in a moment. But talk to us a little bit. What's going on with these young men in the world today?
Yeah. So I think there's two things that are going on right now with guys. I think the first thing is being comfortable is very easy and very readily available. If you think about, you can order Chipotle to your door and never talk to anybody and never leave, right? 10, 15 years ago, you had to go buy the ingredients to make that. Same thing with entertainment, right? You can go on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and you can be readily entertained for very, very little effort. And so I think what's happening right now is, and I'll just focus on young men just because that's that's the audience we work with. Young men have very high reward for low effort right now, right? Low effort of, hey, I can be entertained, get a really nice dopamine hit, and it takes me, and I can do it almost instantly, right? In a couple seconds. And so I think what happens then is when they get involved with harder things, when it comes to school, when it comes to a job, when it comes to relationships, financial budgeting, those things require a little bit of effort. And when the effort now is required and they haven't been used to giving effort for things, it then overwhelms them. And then it then becomes too much. And then they start to retreat. And then they start to get back to the comfortable place, which is why so many young men are, I personally think, living at home with their parents, because it's a very comfortable, safe environment. And so I think that's one of the things that is going on. And by the way, I want to also add to that. I also don't think it's not their faults, because they've grown up with a phone in their hands, right? It's kind of like it's the natural environment that I think a lot of these young men are living in. And I think it's a lot of the parents have also thought this is the right thing to do, right? Hey, my little kid's going nuts. I need to give him an iPad just to shut him up and quiet him up. And then that happens for the next 5 to 10 years of his life. And now he's like really into screens, right? And he doesn't know how to communicate that well. And he's used to that comfort. So I want to, make sure that I'm not being harsh by any means. I just want to say, like, this is just what I think is going on, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or good. I think it's just what's going on. The second thing that I think is going on is, and you hit on this a little bit, Demetrius, is the influence. And so I think because of the access we have to literally everybody, we now have access to a lot of, we could say, influencers who may be pushing certain agendas about what it means to be a good man or what it means to be masculine, right? It's about money. It's about manipulating women, right? It's about power and status. It's about, clout, and how can I be this extreme kingpin while suppressing everybody else? Like, that's what masculinity is, right? And we don't talk about our emotions, right? We don't need other people. And I think when you have a 14 to a 18-year-old watch that, and they see it then get 300,000 views and all these crazy comments, and you see this guy who is trading crypto and living in Dubai and driving Lamborghinis, you're like, wow, that must be the plan. That's what I have to do. And so that's where I think a lot of these young men then get pulled in this other direction of, now, wait, is that really what I need to do to be a good man or to eventually be a good father? And so on the surface, and I tell guys this, I'm like, listen, I'm all for making a lot of money. I'm all for getting the Lambo, and I'm all for women being attracted to me. Yet that is not my Everest, right? That is not my North Star. That is essentially a byproduct of me working hard towards something bigger than myself, right? It's kind of like, I like to say, there's this great analogy I heard once where a light bulb's main purpose is to light something, yet it also gives off heat, right? So like, my main thing is, hey, my goal with Be That Guy is to build a community of young men where we talk about doing the little things right, healthy masculinity, emotional intelligence in men, and how can we be leaders of ourselves, families, and communities. And also, you're going to make some money along the way, and you might even be able to buy a Lamborghini along the way. And there's probably going to be some women who are attracted to you because you are a man with purpose, and you're a man with a story, and you're driving somewhere, and women like that. And so I think that's the other thing that I think a lot of guys are struggling with is who are the good men right now in the public eye that I can look up to and really model a lot of my behavior after, assuming that, obviously, let's say, hey, they have dads, and sometimes dad's voice can go a little numb, right? Sometimes I want somebody else besides dad and mom to inspire me and to listen to. So I think those are the two main things that are kind of going on right now with young men.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty insightful, because truly, you can definitely see once they get into that state. I raised two boys,
Mhm.
and you can definitely truly see once they get to a particular stage and they're very, very impressionable, and they're trying to figure things out. Obviously, and I think in most normal circumstances, most boys have like a favorite uncle
Yeah.
that they even try to emulate sometimes,
Mhm.
outside of their dad. Like, my sons, they respected me or whatever, but they had uncles and, different people, different other men who were a part of their influence. They really wanted to really kind of model, for instance,
Mhm.
there's this family that we were around, and both the grandmother and grandfather of this family, who, by the way, my youngest son actually married their granddaughter,
Mm.
but they took the influence from them, and which is part of the reason why both of them are serving in the Air Force, because
Mm.
the grandfather and grandmother were both retired Air Force people, and of course they talked a lot about the Air Force, right? And so that grandfather became, even before he actually became the grandfather-in-law of my youngest son, was definitely an influence. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think we have to be able to recognize
Mhm.
that partnership that can exist there, that can really help benefit, to support, even reinforce, some of the values, some of the things that we're trying to share with our sons. Because let's face it, I mean, I had the two sons, and then I had a daughter, and I can tell you for certainty that raising the boys, and as they kind of grow and mature and develop, and having a daughter, oh man, I mean, they have some of the same needs, but those needs look a lot different, right?
Mhm.
My daughter, for instance, she would just spend time where she is like, if I'm there and I'm in the room, you know, if I'm there, she's there, right? She's
Mhm.
just got to have like so much attention and so much time and all the things. And if I make a move to go somewhere, she's like right behind me. The boys,
Mhm.
on the other hand, it was kind of funny because all they really wanted me to do was just spend a little time kind of wrestling with them, tussling with them, throwing across the
Mhm.
room, flipping them, all that kind of stuff like that. A few little moments of that, and then they're off to the races. They're out,
Yeah.
outside playing or whatever. They've had, daddy time, right? So it kind of looks a lot different. And it's the same as they kind of grow, into their adolescence. And
Mhm.
one of the things I kind of have seen, and have even kind of discussed with other people, which I'm curious to see what you think about this, that sometimes, parents can get into this thing where um, they feel like, I guess the way I can put it is that there is a challenge to their authority in some
Mm,
way.
mhm.
And, they're really trying to drive the message home. They're trying to drive the lesson home. They're trying to get them to get it. And it kind of brings them to a point of frustration, right?
Mhm.
And of course, we know as parents, we're trying to help our children. We're trying to help them. We're trying to help them not make some of the same mistakes
Mhm.
that we made. So I'm kind of curious, if we can maybe kind of discuss that a little bit and talk about like what can parents do. Of course, we talk about fathers here, but this is helpful for all
Mhm.
parents. But what can parents do to help their sons in particular?
Mm.
Because we're focused on the sons today.
Yeah.
What can we do?
So one of the stories that just popped in my head when you were talking about that was I remember being 17, 18 years old, probably right before I was going to college. And I had, I was backing out of the driveway and I clipped a tree in our driveway with like on like the side of the car. And I was moving fast. I wasn't paying attention. And my father saw it and he literally just looked at me and he just said, "Get out of the car." And I was like, I knew I was in trouble at that point. And we kind of got into it a little bit. And I was like, I'm trying to get out of here and this. And he's like, I got it right. And so he said something I remember in that moment that it's funny. It's just kind of surfacing. He said, Deej, at some point, you're probably going to stop listening to me. And he said, and I get it because I was you at one point. And he said, the things that I say, they probably in theory are going to be majority right, but you're not going to hear them because I've been there your whole life, right? I'm your dad. And he said, so at some point, you're going to have to start making your own decisions about what is right and what is wrong and developing your own ideas and developing your own beliefs based upon your history of us parenting you. And I remember when that happened, I was like, huh, like that's a really smart thing for him to say. But I should I give him the credit for it right now, right? I'm in this heated argument with him, and I was like, yeah, that was really good. Um, but I think when it comes to parenting a son, I was actually talking to somebody about this yesterday. I think our natural instinct, and this might be a little bit more with guys because we are wired to protect and provide safety. Whenever something pushes against us, I think our natural instinct is to push back at it, right? Out of fear and or out of like our brain trying to kind of detect that threat. And I think one of the things that I've personally found very advantageous whenever you kind of come into a conflict with anybody, really, I don't even know if it necessarily has to be your son with anybody or with anybody, is instead of pushing against it, how can I catch and bring them with me? Almost like align with them because you kind of like lose a lot of they lose a lot of their heat. And I'll give you a good example of what this might look like. I remember when I was a junior in high school and yeah, probably like junior, senior in high school. And my parents had the conversation with me about drinking and smoking because I was starting to go to like some high school parties and you think you're like the coolest guy in the world and all these things. You're like, oh, I got invited to this party. These cute girls are going to be there. I've had a crush on them for 7 years. And so we had this great conversation. And I remember my mom saying, listen, Deej, you're probably going to be offered alcohol at some point. You're probably going to be offered weed at some point. And we aren't going to be there to tell you not to do it. All right. So we don't know if you're going to do it. Yet if you do it, please be safe with it. Don't get into cars, right? Don't do it excessively. Yet we know that you're probably going to be enticed to do it. Like we just want to let you know that we're aware of that. And I remember when we had this conversation, it kind of took the allure out of me going and being rebellious because they already knew it. It was already kind of like they already shined the light on it. And I had some friends whose parents were super strict about that stuff. And they were like, if you do any of that, like we're going to have problems. And that's all they wanted to do because of that rebellion nature. Whereas my parents were the complete opposite. And they said, listen, like, we know what's going on here. We know what you're going to be tempted with. And if you're going to do it, like, please be safe, right? Please be aware of it. And I remember like going to these parties and just being like, I'm good. Like, I just like seeing all of you guys. Like, I kind of don't have really any huge interest in doing this. I was an athlete as well, so I just naturally wasn't really into it. But I think that that strategy of parents getting in front of the pushback that the son is going to probably have, and kind of like thinking into the future a little bit, and then bringing it right into the present moment and being like, listen, like, I know what's going on here, right? And it takes away, I think, a little bit of your son's natural tendency to want to rebel, because there's nothing to really rebel against at that point. So that's something that I've found was pretty interesting and a pretty good approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really sitting here thinking about how some of the most pivotal moments in my children's upbringing, especially as they started to get into, like I said, the teenage years, because on the parent side, once they get to a certain age, you kind of start to believe, or you kind of start to feel like they believe that you're probably the least smartest person that they've ever met in their entire life at some point, right? That's just kind of what it seems like. Oh, here we go again. It's remember the same speech, and my children talk about it now because we had a series of lectures from Dad. And they pretty much would say to me, they say to me now, it's like, we would just be like, oh my gosh, we just wish he would just go ahead and spank us and just like get this over, because this is torture, right? But it was like, yeah, but the point was, I wanted you really to understand, and I really wanted you in those lectures. I often repeated to them, and I explained to them, right now, your mom and I, we are telling you when to go to bed, when to wake up, your chores, all the different things. And I used the example I used. I said, at some point you're gonna like literally blink your eyes, because I gave them an example. I felt like I was like teenager. I was the energy of my teenage years, and I blinked my eyes and I was 20. And then before I know it, I blinked my eyes and I was 30. And I told them that time kind of passes almost in blinks, and it's almost like you right now, this is where you are, but you're gonna blink your eyes all of a sudden a couple times, and then the decisions that you make will weigh more on you than they do on anybody else. And what your mom and I are going to become to you at that particular point in your life is we'll become more advisors and counselors. So you still, have the option, to do, to make the choice. And I remember that one of the greatest memories I have, this is my oldest son. I remember that at the time, before we pulled them out of school to homeschool them, they would be riding the bus, and he was the only one in school at this particular point in time. And so I remember that my wife would walk him down to the bus stop, right, with all the other moms, and they're down there conversating and all that, and they're having a good time. And then, of course, he would get on the bus, right? And so there was a few times my wife was like, hey, why don't you walk him down to the bus? I got this or that to do. So I walked him down to the bus stop. And then there was one morning in particular that I decided, okay, I'm not going to walk him down to the bus stop, because I can see the bus stop from, my driveway, into my driveway. And so I walked a little bit with him, and then I stopped. And he kind of looked up at me, right? And I was like, hey, go down to the bus stop, right? So he looks at me like, and first he kind of pauses because I don't think he knows how to take it. He's kind of trying to take it in for a minute. And then all of a sudden there's this big smile that comes across his face, right? And so he starts going down, and I watched him, right? Everything that we taught him, everything that he was taught, whenever you see the lights on the car, stop, pay attention, look. And I watched him as he passed each driveway. He was very attentive and watching where he was going and staying on the side of the road. And he got about halfway, he turned around, he looked back at me, and then he smiled. It seemed like the smile got bigger, right? And then he goes a little bit further, and he finally gets down to the bus stop. When he gets down to the bus stop, I wave at him, he waves at me, and he is I'm talking about just thrilled, like excited, like happy, right? So much. And so I went back in the house, and after the bus came, I was like, "You kind of got back to the house pretty quick, you know." I said, "Well, did you take him to the?" Actually, let him walk down to the bus stop, and what I recognized was how much he appreciated me being able to trust him to
Mm,
do what we taught him. Right?
mm,
His mom had taught him, a lot of things as far as like, getting to the bus stop. I taught him some things, and he took all of those things, and because I gave him the opportunity to demonstrate what he learned, it helped him to become confident, right?
mm,
It's almost like he was saying, I've been waiting for this opportunity to show you what I can do.
mhm,
And I think, sometimes leaning into that, that moment became, I want to say, like a template for
mhm,
what I started to do with them for the rest of their time. It was like, I realized that one of the things I talk about in the book, as I talk about this principle, because in the book I talk about how raising children is like having an arrow in a bow.
yeah,
And one of the things that you must understand, that the arrow will never hit the target if you don't let it go,
yeah,
right?
it's awesome.
And so we gotta understand what it looks like. Now, while I got you in the bow,
Mhm,
I need to aim it, I need to, do all the things that's necessary. But at some point, I've gotta let it go so that
mhm,
it can, make the movement toward the target. And so when I was thinking about that and listening to what you're saying, sometimes two things that was very pivotal to me. One was, like I said, the demonstration of letting them demonstrate what they
mhm,
learned. And then two was vulnerability,
mm,
especially as they got into those teenage years, being vulnerable with them, you
mhm,
know, being honest with them and letting them know, hey, I hadn't forgot that I was a child. Like, you said your dad said I was you, in
mhm,
that moment of vulnerability. Those were so powerful. Those were powerful,
mm.
powerful moments. And so tell me a little bit, how does vulnerability play a big part in this whole process?
Vulnerability is the connecting piece of humans, I think, and it's I think it's needed. I really think it's needed because um, it shows young, and I'll look at this from like a son's perspective because I have a lot of stories about stories that my parents told me about vulnerability. Yet, what it does is it allows young men, sons, to see their father as a human first, and then he was a little child at one point that then became a boy, that then became a teenager, that then became a young man, that then became a man, right, and had you, right, and so you see your father as, oh, he's not just dad, like he's got his own challenges that he's working through, he's got his own pain. And I mean, like, you can use the story that I shared with my father, or like when he shared that with me, he's like, at some point, like I didn't want to listen to my dad either. Like I was you at one point. And just that perspective of sons realizing, like, when I was 18 years old, I was probably a close resemblance of my father, right? When he was 18, right? Just biologically, right? And mannerisms. And so I think when it comes to vulnerability, there's this great analogy I heard once where if you have two perfect circles, they can't connect, right? They would just constantly bounce off of each other. Yet if you had two puzzle pieces that had jagged edges and cuts and cornered pieces, they can come together and they can connect. And so if we use that metaphor as humans, right? If you meet two people who are incredibly perfect, they got the six pack, they got everything that they want in life, all of the money, they've never failed, zero insecurities. You think you're going to be able to have like a relationship with that person or a friendship? Probably be a fake one if you really wanted to force it. Wouldn't be a real one. But now imagine you, who has all these insecurities and these vulnerabilities and these jagged edges, you meet me, for example, DJ, who also has these insecurities, these vulnerabilities, and these edges. Hey, we can connect. We can have a friendship. We can have something real here. Because I've struggled with self-doubt, because I've struggled with self-confidence. I've asked myself, man, why is everybody else doing so good? And I feel like I'm stuck. Right? Like I've had those feelings. And that's a lot of what we talk to the guys about, right? Where it's like, guys, when you're 19 years old and you went to, a semester of community college and you had a 0.8 and you moved back in with your parents and you feel like a total loser, there's thousands, possibly millions of other dudes who've done that, who are exactly where you are right now. And the decisions that you make right now are going to determine tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year. So let's figure something good out. All right. You're not alone with this, and we're going to do this together. All right. We're going to have a fun time doing it too. Like, that's a completely different feeling than, wow, what a loser. That guy dropped out of college. Right. I didn't drop out of college. I had 4-year degree. I had this, I had that. There's that perfect circle. Now I can't build a relationship with that guy. Right. So I think that's the important part about vulnerability, is it breaks us down into the squishy, fragile humans that we all are.
And I love it because, like I said, those times of vulnerability was so pivotal for us. like, I remember having a conversation with the children. I said, hey guys, that because your mom and I are human, this means sometimes we're going to be wrong. I will never forget the look on their face when I said, sometimes that means we're going to be wrong, right? Then here was my caveat, though. Now, it's never your responsibility to try to correct me when I'm wrong, or to correct us when we're wrong. But my commitment to you is, if that is the case, when I recognize that I am, I'll come back to you and I'll apologize and all the things, because I feel like that's the best way for us to demonstrate to you what it looks like whenever you have to make the corrections, whenever you have to make the adjustments, whenever you have to bounce back. I want you to understand what it looks like, so, because I talk all the time, I even talk about it in the book, how, we have to understand that training, we're talking about training and developing and teaching. It is a combination of two things. It is a combination of both demonstration and articulation. If I demonstrate but don't articulate, you're really not getting very much for what I'm doing. But if I articulate and I won't demonstrate to you, like I'm telling you about boom, 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 I'm trying to beat into your head respect, but I never demonstrate respect. Listen, do as I say and not as I do is not a sustainable model. It just does not work. And so those things, those spaces of vulnerability were so pivotal and so important. And I believe, like you said, that these are things that really can help and benefit our young men. I got a couple more questions, then we're gonna jump off of this ship. But I'm gonna maybe put you on the spot for a moment. We're just gonna see. So I'm a dad, and I'm struggling right now with my son. We keep butting heads. I can't figure this out. I've tried a couple different things, and maybe I'm to the point where I'm getting ready to take him in the backyard and say, hey, strap some boxing gloves on.
I love it. It's a great solution.
I'm gonna put a pair of boxing gloves on, and you come on out here with me, right?
Yep.
And I'm frustrated. That I know maybe there is a dad in this scenario. I'm frustrated, and I don't know what to do. And I'm gonna ask you to be the son in the scenario. And let's just say this is a moment where I'm gonna actually. I've said to you, hey, listen, I don't know what's going on in your head, what's going on in your mind. I don't know what it is, that I can do to get through to you. It seems like, I just can't get through that thick skull of yours. I'm going to ask you to be the son in that moment. And I'm dad, and I'm asking you, I want to hear from you. You tell me, what you will want me to hear from you that maybe I hadn't heard in our conversations before.
Okay. So if I was the son, what would I want to hear from my dad?
Are you the son? What would you want your dad to hear from you? Like, what would you want him to understand? You know, and then you can even include what you want to hear from him.
Okay. So if I was the son, what would the dad want to hear from me?
Hmm.
I
Or
mean, honestly,
what would you really want to tell your dad in that moment?
I need your help.
That was
I need
good.
Yeah, I need your help, and I don't know what I need help with. It almost brings a tear to my eye, right? Because it's like I think so many young men never ask for that, and they just struggle for years, and then the relationship gets strained too with their dad and with their family, with their mom. So I think in that moment, I would just say, Dad, I just need your help. I need to figure out my life. I need to figure out what the next steps are. And what I would want to hear back from my father was, no matter what happens, I love you. And we're going to figure this out together. Because the love, I've thought about this a lot. Like the love that you feel from your mom is almost like expected, right? Because like she carried me in her for nine months. Like the typical, you can say feminine energy is more nurturing, more caring, more obviously motherly. Guys, we don't talk a ton about the word love, right? I think it kind of is a little uncomfortable. And so some of my most powerful moments in my life with my friends, with my father, with guys, we said something along the lines of like, dude, I love you. Like, you're my dog. Like, if we're going to war, you're next to me. And that's something that when you hear that from your father, I don't know if I can describe that, right? That's something where it's like, no matter what it is, I'm in. Right. Like,
Hmm.
let's do this together. Let's figure it out. My father has this really cool, if you can't tell by now, I have a really, really good relationship with my father. He's my greatest role model still today. I'm 30 years old and he's my superhero. And he has this card on his desk that is a picture of a little boy, probably like 3 or 4 years old. And the little kid is wearing a helmet that is like an American flag helmet. And he has these goggles on, and the kid is sitting there like this. And above it says, whatever it is, I'm in. And my father saw this card in a store and he immediately bought it. And he bought it because him and my uncle, my father's brother, had a helmet when they were younger that was like exactly that American flag helmet. And that was the mentality that my father always embodied and still does today, where it's like, whatever it is, I'm in. Like, if you're my dude and you're like, hey, let's go run 10 miles tomorrow in the snow. It's like, sounds good. What time are we doing it? You don't ask questions. Like, I'm in. Let's do it. Right. And I don't know if you have a lot of people in your life who have that connection with you, yet I have that connection with my father because of those moments where he said, like, he very repeatedly in all the football games that I played in, he would tell me, he would say, Deej, you could throw 10 interceptions tonight and I would still love you with everything I had. Like, he would tell me that before games. Like, what do you think that does to a son? Or like, what do you think that makes him want to do? It makes me want to freaking rip it. Like, that's what it makes you want to do. Right. And so, and he would even say, no, I don't want you to throw 10 interceptions. He's like, I recommend not trying to do that. He's like, but whatever happens, he's like, I love you no matter what. And like, I'm on your team no matter what happens. Right. So when you can have that type of response from a father, that does something to a son. That does something. And there's probably a lot of things that a mother can say as well, yet, and I have fantastic relationship with my mother. She's my counsel. When things go bad, I typically would go to her. um,
Hmm.
Yet I think that father and son relationship, when you talk about, hey, I'm in, like, I'm on your team, and there's going to be times too when things don't go our way. I think that's really, really important for fathers to communicate with sons is, hey, like, you're going to fail sometimes. Like, sometimes
Hmm.
you're going to be embarrassed. Sometimes you're going to be hurt. right? Sometimes you're not going to know what to say, and you're going to babble on your words, and you're going to feel like a total idiot. Like, that's part of going through the dragon skin, right? That's part of toughening up, in all honesty, right? If we want to toughen something up, we actually have to put it through something hard, right? Put it through something challenging. And so, which I think is a big reason why we have a lot of young men today who everybody says are soft and entitled. It's because, well, let's think about the comfort that they're constantly surrounded with, right? So yeah, I know that was a little bit of a long-winded answer to that, but that was an important answer for me personally.
Yeah, that's really good, because it made me think about a particular moment with one of my sons. We were having a conversation. It was something he had done. He made a mistake, and he was so tore up about it, right? And the thing that in conversation with him, I found out was tormenting him, was him thinking about how disappointed I was, right? That's pretty much what he brought up in the conversation. Hey, Daddy, I know I did, and I know that disappointed you, blah, 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 and all this. And so in the moment, I said two things that really resonated, like what you just said. I believe, I don't know, it just kind of it felt something in the air right there.
Yeah.
But I said to him, I don't want to have a conversation with you about my disappointment. There's two things that I want to talk to you about. One, what have you learned, from the scenario? What have you gotten out of it? What are you going to do different? Because we don't have to just go round and round about. I don't want you focused on my disappointment. I want you focused on how you plan on not allowing yourself to be back in this space again. And so after we kind of shared in that moment, then I thought it very important to tell him, now, I want you to walk away from this conversation knowing that you have my full vote of confidence, that you have the ability, you have the capability. You're way better than this whole scenario, this whole situation, right? We're not going to let this define you. We're not going to let this be, the thing that you just keep, allowing yourself to be tormented and troubled about. But I'm telling you, as your father, I have complete confidence in you, and you have my respect. Oh man, I mean, we were both kind of in tears in that moment.
Yeah.
Because he heard me say to him, "Hey, I get it. You made a mistake. We're not going to focus on my disappointment. You got my full vote of confidence. I'm still in your corner, and you can do this." And I told him, "Hey, and of course, I'm always here." Those things actually, in those scenarios, it's funny how those situations can actually bring us closer together. It's funny how the way we handle those situations as parents can actually give our voice more weight, than we realize. And so one of the things I'm really grateful for in my adult children's lives is that they will come back. They will come and talk to me. They feel comfortable coming to talk and share with us, the different things, because, we made that open. Like, you can really come and share. We can really talk, and I'm going to talk to you like another adult. I'm not going to make you feel shame and all those kind of different things like that. And it has really been something that I've cherished, not to, barge into there and be like, well, let me fix it. No, just kind of let them, go their way, because I think one of the best gifts, I talk about that in the book as well, one of the best gifts you can give your adult child is independence. And they go forward with that independence, and they always know when to call. Like, he'll call when he feels like he needs to call. She'll call when she feels like she needs to call. But those moments of just that, again, just that vulnerability, those moments have really solidified, our relationship. And as they grow and as they develop, it's I have precious memories of them growing up. But this season of parenting, for me, it has its own, little treasures that are in there. So I'm really, really appreciative of that. Man, listen, I'm having fun
So much.
chat with you and talking to you, but I want to know two things. One is, do you have any recommended reading material that you have, maybe some books maybe some videos, maybe. And then, of course, you got to tell us, about the Be That Guy
Yeah.
podcast. I mean, we got to know. We
Yeah.
got to
Without a
know
doubt.
where we can go grab some of your resources. That thing we got to know. Talk to us.
Yeah. So I'll start first with some of the books that I think have had a big profound impact on me. I'll give 4 recommendations. These are books that have really, really changed the way I think about things. So the first book that we actually have every guy read, it's mandatory when we kick off our habit program for Be That Guy, is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And very simple read, shouldn't take you too long. But the basic idea of the book is doing the little things right and not missing them. And if you do miss one, don't miss 2 days in a row, right? Very simple rule. Simple little things like waking up on time, going to bed on time, reading each day. Maybe you want to count some calories or have an apple a day, right? Go to the gym, move for 30 minutes for a certain duration of time each week. And don't miss those. Don't lie to yourself and create a visual system to track it, right? And so that's a lot of what we do in Be That Guy. I read The Compound Effect probably 3 or 4 times, and I was like, this is a really great way to get guys moving in a direction, right? Gives them structure, gives them routines. So that's the first one I would recommend, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Second book is called It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. And this book is about I think the subtitle is How to Gain Control of Your Life by Thinking Neutrally. And one of the things that changed my life in my 20s was, have you ever heard of the Chinese farmer story?
I don't think I have.
All right, so this is an incredible story. It's like a 1:38 video. I actually just did a podcast on this. We're actually releasing the podcast today, actually, in about on Thursday. So it's really it blew my mind. But basically, the idea of this story is that we don't know what's good and we don't know what's bad. Events are just events, and then we create a story around it, right? So great example, right? I got fired from my job when I was 21 years old. I thought I had my life figured out. I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. In that moment, I thought that was really bad. Yet I met Scott a couple weeks later, and then we ended up going in the direction. And now I have the opportunity to speak with you today, Demetrius. I don't think I ever would have had this opportunity if I hadn't gotten fired from that job. We don't know what's good and we don't know what's bad. Mm-hmm. And so this idea, I like to personally call this neutral thinking, not applying negative or positive thinking to any event. It's just an event, right? And in the book, Trevor Moawad, he talks about how he's like, I can guarantee negative thinking works. He's like, if you think negatively, you're not going to feel that good. He's like, I can't really guarantee positive thinking works. He's like, because I don't really believe in like just screaming affirmations in the mirror all the time. And personally, I don't believe in that either. I don't think you can trick yourself into happiness or trick yourself into progress. I think it comes from action and doing the thing. So he really hits on try to think neutrally about the event and what's going on. Right. And so that's another book that I haven't made it a requirement yet because we adjusted our program. We'll probably get into this in a couple of minutes when I explain Be That Guy a little bit more. But about halfway through our program, what we do is we go from the hard skills of tracking habits into continuing to track the hard skills of the habits and the confidence building throughout the remaining 13 weeks. But what we also do is in our sessions, we have a conversation. We have 6 different topics around neutral thinking and healthy masculinity. And so this is about like, how can you be a better listener and put the ego aside? How can we remember that everybody has a story and I can empathize with people better, right? How can I remember that events are just events and I ultimately apply the meaning? How can I find 10% in every event that's going to help me? What's the gift here? What's the opportunity? And when you start talking about those things over and over and over again, your thinking is probably going to start to change a little bit. And so that's a great book. It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. Third book that I'm a really, really big proponent of is The Gap and the Gain. And it's by, I actually think I have it somewhere. Oh, it's right over there. Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Awesome book. It's essentially, how do you measure success? Do you measure it in the gap or do you measure it in the gain? Do you measure all the things that you don't have or do you measure all the things that you do have? So that's a really great book around changing your perspective around what you've accomplished. I think a lot of the times we forget about the things we've done. And this is a big reason why we have all of the guys track their habits visually on a calendar, because then after 3-4 months of doing this, you look back and you see hundreds of X's and you're like, what do you think that does to a young man's self-image? Wow, I followed through on 90% of the things I said I was going to do. holy cow, maybe I'm not as big as a loser as I think I am right now. Right? Like it just has all this evidence that you really can't debate somebody over, right? It's like, here it is, assuming you were honest with it. So that's the third book that I really like. And then the fourth book, and this is a book that really, really hit me hard in my early 20s, is called Deliberate Discomfort. This is a book written by Jason Van Camp. And the book has a really cool way that it's written. It's written by a bunch of Green Berets, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, and each chapter is a different serviceman or woman. And then the chapter is broken up into the serviceman or woman writing about their experience in combat, where they intentionally chose discomfort and why that was important at the time. And then the second half of each chapter is a psychologist or a mental toughness expert explaining what this did and why they decided to do it. Really, really cool book. And so I remember reading that book along when COVID was kind of starting to hit. And after that book, I remember running 3 miles in the snow, right? Like waking up at 5 a.m. I mean, I just made everything harder on purpose because I read that book and I just was like, I just want to do harder things. Like, let's see how painful I can do this. And, you know, after a couple months, I was running 3 miles in the snow. I was doing like the Murph workouts like 2 to 3 times a week with dumbbells in my backpack. And I just did it because I thought it would just make me a better man. I thought it would just make me stronger, right? And I didn't tell anybody about it. I was actually very, very quiet about it. I always did it in the shadows because I liked doing it that way. But that book had a huge impact on me in that way. So that'd be the fourth book, Deliberate Discomfort by Jason Van Camp.
Superb. See, this guy's running in the snow, 3 miles in the snow. He's that guy.
Go run in the snow. I'm telling you, you'll humble yourself pretty quickly. I always tell people, I say, I think more young men should experience combat sports. So jujitsu, MMA, boxing. I think that is fantastic. I'm not saying you guys got to go fight everybody, but that is some of the most humbling stuff you will ever do in your life. And running in the snow is also super humbling. It's very exhausting and tiring. So I recommend everybody try it. It's good for you.
Yeah. So and I like the name, the name, you know, the nickname Deej. That's
Deej,
cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Deej has a website called www.bethatguy.com where you actually can go and check him out, you know, and so where can we listen to your podcast?
So real quick, the URL is bethatguyclub.com. I just want to make sure because we are technically
Be That Guy Club.
Be That Guy Club. I technically call it a club because people are like everybody was calling it like it's a community, and community's kind of long. I'm like, this is a club. It's like an elite club of guys, right? So like that's the way that I kind of call it. So so it's bethatguyclub.com, and that basically has like our habit program. And so if you're a parent, you can go there and you just click on, hey, I'm a parent, and then it literally shows you here's exactly how our habit program is all kind of run. So the way that we run the habit program is essentially we start a new one each month, and we typically do anywhere from like 3 to 5 guys. And typically all of these guys are coming in from parents, right? So they're all parent related. And typically it's actually moms. Moms are actually looking out for their sons a lot because a lot of these young men, unfortunately, they don't have those strong father figures in their lives, which I think there's a lot of deep rooted anger, unfortunately, because they don't have these conversations and a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. And so what we do is that every month we enroll a couple of these guys, and we basically track 3 core habits of reading, exercise, and sleep. And then we track a growth habit each week, which is essentially helping them with their professional progress. So this might be job applications. This might be getting a resume together. This might be researching jobs that are available. This might be getting ready for college. So college applications. This might be organizing their schedule if they're already in college and understanding where their time goes. So we do a lot of different professional progress things. And basically every week we meet once a week in our small group. We check in, hey, what's going good in your life? And then they say, here's how I did on my core habits. I hit 4 out of the 5 readings. I hit 3 out of the 5 exercise. And the simple thing that I always tell the guys is if they come in and they say, I hit 3 out of 5 exercise, I'll say, why didn't you hit 5? And just let that sit. Right? I'm not fixing you, right? It's not my job to fix you, right? This is me just being curious about your life. And Demetrius, you should see the answers we get back. I was lazy. I got to make some changes, right? I can do better. Right? Like if you ask these guys these things, like they know the answers, right? And they know they just got to do the thing. right? And I tell them, I say, hey, boys do what they want, men do what's required, right? You can either be a boy or a man. It's up to you, right? I'm gonna sleep either way. I'm gonna sleep good either way. All right, because I'm doing my things, because I do all the program with them, right? I never have them do it without me. And so we check in each week, right? We go through our core habits and our growth commitments. Then each week they essentially will set a new growth commitment based upon the progress that they're making. So it's so cool. Like, you'll have guys start working in, let's say, March, and by the middle of March they got 3 job offers, and they're like, oh my God, like, what do I do? And I'm like, you got to pick one of these now, right? It's like, now you're gonna start making some money, and then once you start making some money, it's like, hey, let's start budgeting. Let's not spend thousands of dollars on weed, vaping, and junk food. Right? Let's start to adjust your spending here, right? Let's think this through. And so then we get into like budgeting if the guys are starting to make some money. So it's really cool just to see, like, the thing I get out of it, and I realized this too a little while ago, was the financial piece is cool, right? It's like, hey, I'm making a living doing this. Like, that's really cool. I really enjoy that. Yet I just genuinely like seeing these guys changing their life. Like, it's just cool to watch. It's very inspiring to watch a guy go, man, I was playing 9 hours of video games a day, and now I'm exercising 5 times a week. I'm reading The Compound Effect. I'm turning the TV off at 11:30. I'm studying to go to this architecture school, and I just made $1,000 last week because I started becoming an Amazon driver. And you're like, wow, that's pretty freaking cool. Like, I'm so happy that I get to see that. Like, and I just get to experience those guys doing that, because I know that there's a lot of guys out there who aren't doing those things, and they're going to stay stuck for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years. And then their relationship with their parents is going to get strained. And then they're going to kind of get desperate. And then they're going to join our group at 25 when they probably should have joined it at 20. And so that's what I love to see. And I tell the parents, I say, listen, we don't have a secret formula here. Right? I'm not telling your son things that you don't know about. I said the key here is it's the dynamic. I said the content is probably going to be a lot of similar things to what you've told them. Yet the thing is I wasn't there at your son's 10th birthday. I didn't give your son the keys to the car when he was 16. Right? I wasn't there when you had your first drink with him. Right? Like, I'm a third party objective on your son's life. So I don't have a history with your son. And the parents who get that are like, like, that's what we need. Right? We need like a support that isn't us. And once parents realize that, that's when, I'm talking to these parents, are like, this is awesome, right? Like, you're going to probably talk to them about a lot of things we've already talked to. It's just a different angle. And my separation from their life makes it, hey, this is on you, right? Like, I'm not going to be there at 5 a.m. to wake you up. Like, you got to get out of bed and go to the gym if you really want to do this. And if you're committing to doing this 4 times this week, and you come back and you say, I hit 1 out of 4, I'm going to say, why? Right? Like, if you hit 4 out of 4, I'm going to be like, dude, that's awesome. Like, congrats. That's fantastic. But if you hit 1 out of 4, it's a very simple, so what's going on? Right? I have no emotion in it. That's where I express my neutral thinking with it. So it works, right? It's a very black and white approach, and guys change. Guys like think bigger about their lives, and we have a lot of fun doing it. I bust the guys' chops. They give it right back to me, right? If the guy's playing video games for 5 hours a day, I'm like, can we break it down to 3? And like, they'll get a good chuckle out of that. They're like, all right, like, yeah, we could try 3. I'm like, hey, right, you're more than welcome to play 6. I said, but why not 3? And so we have a good time doing it. And so I think they enjoy that. So it's awesome. And so if any parent wants to learn more about that, just go to bethatguyclub.com.
Good deal. Good deal. Listen, I have had so much fun with this conversation today, and talking with you and just kind of sharing and going back and forth. I'm really thinking. I'm really grateful to be able to hear, the son perspective,
Yep.
and just speaking as a father, what's coming to mind is, and like I said, I'm reflecting on my children being adults. There's a scripture in Proverbs that talks about what it does to the heart of a father to see his children following his instruction. And, because I talk about it now, like, I love spending time and playing with my grandson. I love it so much. But my favorite thing is to watch my son with his son, to watch him, how he's caring for him and taking care of him and fulfilling his responsibilities, and how he's really just, doing what he has to do concerning his family. that brings me more joy than probably I could ever express. So really being able to invest that and seeing what that looks like, man, it is. I just described this season of parenting. I describe it as so rewarding, and I know it's because if you approach those moments as they come along the right way, it will be so beneficial for you down the line. And you'll be able to overcome, and they'll be able to overcome, and they'll be able to grow, and they'll be able to be better than sometimes even you probably imagined and dreamed that they would be, or even that they even probably thought they could be.
Yeah.
So it's so great that you guys are making this investment. Listen, guys, go over there, and let me get it correct this time. Go over there to www.bethatguyclub.com. Go ahead and join the club, right?
Go join the
Get
club,
in there
dude.
and get in there and see. Wow, join the club. Get
Join
in
the
there
club,
and
right?
see.
See, it worked.
Get in there and see how you can develop those habits that will cause you to learn how to. You can be that guy, right? But there's going to be some things that you have to do in order to bring you to that point of being that guy that probably you never thought you could be. Listen, y'all, we have had some fun today. I know that this episode is really going to benefit you in some great ways. So go ahead and save it over there. Go ahead and save it in your favorites, all that kind of stuff like that. So you can go back and watch it again whenever you get ready and have it up. And say, what did they say? Let me go back. And then, of course, like and subscribe. Right? That's what we need you to do. Like and subscribe. Go down to the website there. Go get that Don't Let the Devil Fool You hoodie, t-shirt, cap, cup, something. Go get it. All right. I'll appreciate it very, very much. Because again, it's so dear to me. We just built a lot around what these things my dad used to say. All right. DJ, I've had fun, man. Thank you so much for being my guest today and being a part of our podcast family, y'all. Everybody, do me a good favor for me. And I know maybe I can't hear you, and maybe we can't see you, but if you would, just do me a favor and let's just appreciate and celebrate my guy here.
I love that. That's awesome.
All right, listen, y'all. I'm your host. Remember, all we're working to do is to do our best and do what we can to make our best better. I've had fun with y'all today. DJ's had fun with y'all today. Go over there to the website, check it out, look for more, and listen. I'll look forward to seeing you the next time here on Facts and Fatherhood. See y'all later.